I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to The Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today we're talking with Elizabeth Rouse from ArtsMemphis, so stay with us for a conversation with Elizabeth. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We're trying to figure out, we know you and I did this in deep COVID.
We definitely
Probably
did
like
it
a
in deep
year
COVID.
plus ago
Yep.
by Zoom. I think it was when like arts organizations were shut down because no one
Completely
knew.
shut down.
Yeah, it was just a disaster. I feel like we had to have had you on since then. But anyway, I'm glad you're here.
All of that was 5 years ago now.
I want to circle back to some of that just because it is weird to think about how that was 5 years ago and how things have changed and lessons learned, and things that have continued for organizations. But you all hit a big milestone recently in this week or so.
We did. We have just officially given out more than $100 million to arts organizations and artists across Shelby County since our founding in 1963. And so that's a major milestone that is really a result of many, many, many Memphians stepping up to support the arts over the last 60 years. And so Memphis should be very proud of that.
And to be clear to people who don't know ArtsMemphis, talk about what is ArtsMemphis?
Sure. So ArtsMemphis is Memphis's go-to arts agency. We provide grant funding to arts organizations and artists, but we are much more than that. We are really the go-to connectors and conveners and advocates for all things art. And so we support about 90 different organizations and artists on an annual basis through funding, but also many other resources like workshops and capacity building programs and promoting what they do.
Yeah. And it's an independent 501c3.
It is a 501c3. We raise every dollar we give out. So last year we distributed about $3.4 million, and almost all of that came from local organizations and individuals. We do get a little bit of government funding, but the bulk of it is private philanthropy.
I was looking at your website. I think it was like 9% or something as government, which I guess makes sense, but it's also sometimes, I don't know. We were joking before we started about European accents, and you think about every country's imperfect, but Europe kind of gets a little better in terms of supporting the arts.
They do. But the good news for Memphis is that, especially right now, is, unfortunately, there are a lot of ups and downs in federal funding and more downs than ups, that really most Memphis organizations are primarily funded by local philanthropy and individuals. And so, that's why we have, an organization like ArtsMemphis that's existed for 60 years.
And again, not to get into the politics of it, just the reality of, and we've done some shows over on Behind the Headlines on WKNO about, threats to senior funding and threats through Medicaid and just all that. But just there wasn't that much money coming through federally, so there's not that far to fall.
Well,
because some of the, we did an interview with MIFA, with talking about Meals on Wheels, and we talked with the Aging Commission and, assisted living and how much federal money. It is a huge risk to that funding. Yeah. More risk than can really reasonably come in from philanthropy.
Right.
But given the low dollars of federal money through National Endowment of the Arts is pretty small. It's significant, but also small in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, for Memphis arts organizations, the groups we support last year had collective budgets of about $80 million, and just about 4% of that came from federal funding. And so for a few organizations, it is really significant.
Sure.
The real impact to Memphis arts organizations as it relates to changes in government funding, which is sort of yet to be determined, is how any federal changes impact the Tennessee Arts Commission, because about 20% of some of our state grants come from federal funding. The remainder of that comes actually, though, from the sale of specialty license plates.
Does it really?
Which is something that Steve Cohen set up a long time ago.
Back when he was in the state legislature?
Way back when.
So all the specialized ones, or just certain ones?
Any specialty plate sold in the state of Tennessee, a portion benefits the Arts Commission, but if you buy an arts plate, which is like a rainbow, or there's a blue plate, the Burton Calicut is the rainbow. Anyway, there are a few that are specific arts plates where a much higher percentage goes to the Arts Commission.
I didn't know that.
So if you have a Tiger's plate or...
Yeah. I just bought a new car, so maybe I'll get a personalized license plate. What can I put, Natalie, as my personalized...
Don't ask.
Natalie. Yeah, I know. It's not good. But
so the federal cuts are, definitely impacting arts organizations. Obviously, this week's news impacting some of our grantee partners like WYXR. But overall, we are trying to raise more money so that we at ArtsMemphis can help fill some of those gaps, because these arts organizations are not just, doing shows for people to buy tickets to and come to, but they are providing critical on-the-ground services for kids, for seniors, and neighborhoods across the city. And so at times when other resources are cut, in a lot of ways, arts organizations are needing to step up. So,
WXR, I think it'd be about $100,000 hit. They just got, I should say, because I'm a board member, full disclosure of WXR, just got into Corporation for Public Broadcasting funding, was admitted into the club, as it were. KNO is looking at a $1.3 million hit. I mean, really big dollar amounts. So, and both, doing fundraising and so on. And I'll just remind everyone, if you joined late, we're with Elizabeth Rouse from ArtsMemphis. How do you talk about that stuff, this kind of thing, without being political? Politics, it's just so charged. And this isn't a politics show. And so I'm not trying to go there with it. But you just, you're trying to talk to people about how do you dodge the politics of it?
Well, supporting the arts is really all about, and supporting ArtsMemphis and other organizations is all about providing access so that there can be more opportunity for individuals and for our communities as a whole. So there's an economic impact side to arts support, but then there's also a youth development side. The arts are a source of healing and bridging differences and so many other things. And so, cutting arts funding means cutting access opportunities for youth and for seniors, means cutting jobs, which is really significant. In fact, the nonprofit Arts in Memphis and Shelby County helped generate about almost 4,000 full-time equivalent positions, which is quite significant. So
how is we had DeMarcus Suggs, who's he's essentially the arts liaison, arts coordinator for the city
Director of Culture and Creative Economy.
Yeah, and we had him on, and really fabulous guy. I mean, and there's an equivalent position at the county commission. How does that help? I mean, in terms of convening and communicating and putting on events, they're not really positions that spread a lot of funding per se, but it's still helpful.
It is so valuable to have somebody in city government, in county government every day thinking about how can the arts be part of other things that our city government and county government's prioritizing. And so just thinking about whether it's something related to housing or transportation, how might the arts be brought in as a partner? And, artists are Memphians and citizens too. And so it's been incredibly helpful. Nakisha Cole, who's been with Shelby County government as the arts liaison for several years now, has just been a great connector of arts organizations with other efforts across the county. And then having now DeMarcus, and it's still really early. He hasn't even been, this new office hasn't been around for even a year yet. But it's going to be, I think, long-term incredibly valuable to Memphis. And ArtsMemphis is a partner to both of those folks, and excited to work with them.
One of the things both of them talked about, because we had Lakeisha on as well, was figure out ways, and we talked to Natalie from the Overton Park Shell about this, bringing the arts to people in a city that doesn't have great mass transit. Obviously, Matt is struggling right now, speaking of political stuff. And just, a city of poverty, a city of just people don't necessarily want to go all the way across town to see the arts. And it was a really interesting thing that she talked about, of ways they could try to help convene and communicate with people to get them in a place where arts could go. And obviously the Shell, with the rolling Shell now, or the Shell on Wheels, that's a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, and the county's been doing some great arts festivals in different places across the city that are not only are they free financially, but they're easily accessible. And I think, at ArtsMemphis, we really prioritize funding arts organizations to cover their operating costs so that they can do after-school programs and be in neighborhoods. And really almost every single organization we support has something that is working to eliminate transportation barriers so that their art form can be accessible.
We're here with Elizabeth Rouse from ArtsMemphis. Just passed $100 million given away since the organization was founded in 1963. We'll talk more about some of the grants, and they've got a big event coming up in November. But let me take a moment to do some housekeeping and remind everyone that I am Eric Barnes, and this is The Sidebar. It airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. Focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. But it's not just a radio show. It's one of many weekly podcasts we do, and now daily podcasts, I should say, that we do at the Daily Memphian, including our new morning podcast, AMDM. That's you'll hear Natalie Van Gundy on there doing news. A lot of people, YXR fans, have heard her for years doing hourly, morning, noon, and afternoon, 3 times a day news briefs. Those are now also available with even more news in the AMDM podcast. And then Mary Casciola, our editorial director, does a kind of deep dive on a big story. She'll talk to one of our reporters about something going on. The one this morning as we air was on Bill Dries talking about the history of the new Daisy, which was amazing, by the way. And Mary introduced him as the legendary Bill Dries. I guess I'm going to have to start doing that on Behind the Headlines. We also have the weekly, mostly weekly, Memphis Grizzlies podcast with Chris Harrington and Drew Hill. And we have our food podcast, Soundbites, hosted by Holly Whitfield. Soundbites also airs on WYXR every Thursday at 11, right before the sidebar. We also host the podcast version of Behind the Headlines, the show we do with WKNO every week. All of our podcasts are on the Daily Memphian site, as well as iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also download the WYXR app, which includes all the WYXR shows, the talk shows, the music shows, and do please consider becoming a supporter of WYXR. It is nonprofit, listener-supported radio, especially now with having lost, at least next year, the federal funding. So become a member, you get all kinds of benefits, or you can also just do a one-off donation. And the Daily Memphian, also a nonprofit. It's the largest newsroom in the region, and become a paid subscriber if you can. Subscriptions pay for a little over half of what we do at the Daily Memphian, then advertising, and also you can do a donation because we are a nonprofit and supported at least almost 20% of what we do is supported by donations. Coming up soon on the sidebar is Casey Murley, the head of the Overton Park Conservancy. We've got David Lusk talking about his art gallery and art generally, the new head of GPAC, Sam O'Brien, who's been on the show in his past role at Literacy Mid-South, now at Bridges. We recently had Code Crew on. They were great, talking about the incredible evolution of that organization, how much bigger it's gotten. And we went on site to Young Avenue Sound and had a really good time talking to the folks who've kind of been changing things. Young Avenue Sound been around a long time, new ownership over the last few years, and kind of a new focus and direction for them. On Behind the Headlines, coming up this week, we've got 2 board members from the Memphis Shelby County School Board. There's nothing really to talk about when it comes to the school board, but we'll figure something out. It's a bit of a follow-up to a conversation we had with Brent Taylor and Mark White a week or 2 ago. I have no sense of time anymore. Upcoming shows also include a show focused on affordable housing. We've got Doug McGowan and Ursula Madden, pause for effect, together. It's going to be amazing. Talking about MLGW. Doug is the head of MLGW. Ursula is the secret, actual, real person in charge at MLGW. Then we have a show with Shondale Ryan from DMCA is coming up. So a bunch of shows coming up on Behind the Headlines. And I mentioned recently, you can see past episodes of Brent Taylor, Mark White talking mostly about schools, and also a big deep dive into the proposed Mississippi Boulevard Church redevelopment with Todd Richardson from Crosstown and WXR, as well as the head of the pastor at Mississippi Boulevard Church. The last bit of housekeeping, I promise. Our small business seminar, the first of 3 seminars that we'll do this spring, our business seminars, is on September 18th at 3:30 at the Botanic Garden. We've got the folks from Zoop Med. We've got David Perdue, who started a landscaping business in his teens, and it's now a huge multi-million-dollar business. And actually the profile we did of him is like one of the most read stories we've done in the last year. Go figure. I mean, it's great. It's a great story. As well as Andre Ford from Turner and Ford Construction. Again, that's September 18th at 3:30 at the Botanic Garden. Go to Daily Memphian, click on events or seminars, I think, or you can go right to Eventbrite and search for Daily Memphian. There's a lot of housekeeping, Elizabeth, and you were really patient through all of that.
And it's summertime, and there's still a lot happening.
There's still a lot happening. We just have a flurry of guests. We've got a flurry of shows, a flurry of guests set up, and all of them really good. So talk a little bit about, speaking of events, in November, you've got a big event coming up. Talk about that.
We do. So we are celebrating this major milestone of $100 million by bringing back an event that used to happen 20 years ago, last, I believe, at the Coliseum. It's
wow, I'm already excited.
I know. It's called Artrageous. And so we're bringing back some of the folks who were involved back then, and we're recreating it here at Crosstown Arts. So it will be a celebration of all things Arts Memphis. We'll have lots of different arts organizations and artists. There'll be all kinds of performances planned and unexpected surprise things in the green room and the galleries. Brantley Elsie's show will be up, which will be fabulous to be surrounded by. And so it'll be a party of the unexpected and good food and drink, and hope Memphis will come out and celebrate our great arts community.
And that's in November. Can people get tickets yet? Or is that
November 13th? Tickets are on sale on artsmemphis.org, and we have an early bird discount going right now. So it's a good time to buy.
Okay, that's great. In next year, this week, I'm sorry, I was going to say next year because I wrote down 2025 thinking that was next year. We're halfway through 2025. You've got a new, or maybe it's not new, but you're relaunching or starting your Arts Assist grants.
That's right. So
what would be helpful is if I let you explain these things instead of me trying to pre-explain them.
Well, it is a new year, new fiscal year at Arts Memphis, which means we have a new budget that includes not only increasing our support of arts organizations this year, but also increasing our support of individual artists. And so this week we have just launched our Arts Assist grant for visual artists and filmmakers and musicians through Music Export Memphis, and dancers. I was forgetting one group. But anyway, artists can apply. The application information is on our website, and these are $5,000 unrestricted grants. And so encourage people to spread the word and let artists they may know about these opportunities. This is the second year of us doing this program, and we're able to increase and add film this year thanks to Mark Jones, who's stepped up to make that happen. And so we're excited to add that. We have a great committee of Memphis artists who help us select jurors from out of state and make these funding decisions. And this funding is really, really critical. It's unrestricted. So some artists may use it for more time in their studio and working one less job, and others may use it for equipment or marketing purposes. And so it's just a great resource.
And it's significant for two reasons, if I understand correctly. One, most of what you're doing is to arts organizations, so whatever people know the organization. Two, there aren't a ton. It is not easy as an artist to get an individual grant that just allows you to go do whatever. Maybe you get a fellowship to a program that also involves some teaching, all kinds of great things. But NEA grants are tough to get. I mean, it's a very competitive process. So I'm wrong. I'm right about that.
You're absolutely right about that. And actually, right now at our office on Mendenhall, we've got a great art show up that Brittany Bullock curated. She's a local visual artist who was a recipient of one of these Arts Assist grants last year. And she talks about how this grant, in fact, she titled the show in our office Granted Time, because she talks about how it enabled her to have more time and space and to try some new things that enabled her to create at a larger scale, and even resulted in a new commission for her from a local museum. And so it's really valuable for artists to be able to apply for this unrestricted funding. And we hope to continue adding to this and making this an even more significant part of Arts Memphis's portfolio of grant opportunities.
I'm curious, how long have you been at Arts Memphis?
I have been at Arts Memphis about 19 years.
19 years. Okay. So unless you want to, because I don't mean this it could seem like an ugly question. I really don't mean it this way. The first part of the question is, what makes a successful arts organization? And then the second part is what makes a sustainable one in the time you've been doing this. And as you look around the country, and I'm sure you have peers and other similar organizations, and, because it's difficult to run. I mean, I was talking about a nonprofit. I mean, Daily Memphian's a nonprofit. WYXR is a nonprofit. WKNO is a nonprofit. These things are not simple to run. Right?
They are not simple at all. And the benefit of having worked at Arts Memphis for a long time has been, really being able to see different iterations of arts organizations and see things evolve. I would say the number one thing that excites me in the way in which so many arts organizations have evolved is being much more of a community asset than just a performing or a visual arts organization, and really thinking about how their organization is really a part of the Memphis fabric, is helping, address challenges and opportunities. But then, back to our last interview we can remember, everything changed for arts organizations 5 years ago. And so what makes organizations successful today, and really even pre-COVID, this was the case, but now more than ever, is, organizations have to be nimble, and they have to, not just be thinking about their art form, but how it connects to the community and how it's relevant and what people want, which is ever changing. So it's about listening and thinking about audiences and meeting needs of a community, and then figuring out what that magic revenue model is to make that work.
I mean, we were joking before we started. I was on a call with a foundation for Daily Memphian yesterday on a Zoom, out-of-town foundation, and they were doing research on local news and the growth of local news, nonprofit organizations around the country as big newspapers have cut back. And they're very focused on the business model, which made me happy because, there's a lot in local nonprofit news. There's a real push to have all news be free and all of it paid for by philanthropy, which sounds fantastic. And there are some amazing organizations, Texas Tribune, Cal Matters, there are others who are pulling that off, and it's remarkable. But they're the exception, not the rule.
Right.
And as you know, having worked in this for 19 years, philanthropy is not a magic thing. I mean, it is hard. It involves work. You still have to have a plan of how you spend it. And for arts organizations, maybe not unlike news, 50% of what we do is subscriptions. Another 25% is advertising and sponsorships. And then that last piece is the philanthropy. And I mean, think about theaters, you think about performing arts spaces, they're making choices about butts in the seat.
Right.
And season ticket passes and sponsorships on the marquee and selling. I mean, they're businesses, right?
They're absolutely
They
businesses.
have to operate like a business.
Exactly. And so much has changed just around consumer interest that, season ticket packages and things like that are really a thing of the past. And so organizations have had to figure out how to kind of repackage their seasons, if you will, to something that's a bit more flexible and engaging. And so it is a very small percentage. I don't know the average number for Memphis off the top of my head, but a small percentage of revenue actually comes from ticket sales and earned income. And so it's figuring out how to have the earned income, but pair that with sponsorships and contributions, and maybe long-term some sort of endowment funding to enable some sustainability.
For the organizations that support the arts, why do they do it?
Well, about
in the individuals and so on, the people who do it.
About 40% of ArtsMemphis' support comes from corporations, and most of my conversations with those businesses it's about making Memphis a more vibrant place for their employees and giving back to their community. For individuals, for many people, it's they have a deep passion for the arts, but I would say the majority of ArtsMemphis supporters, they see the role that the arts play in the broader community and want to be behind something that's positive and that's accessible and open to everyone. And so that's something that we're really trying to make sure Memphians are aware of, that every day in this city, there is something happening in the arts, and there is a student or a senior and everybody in between benefiting.
You touched on this a little bit, but again, we mentioned that I swear there was an interview in between the COVID one
there
5 years ago. There probably, but I really do remember that one. It really vividly, because it felt like it was deep COVID. We were lost. We didn't know where we were going. And there was that early phase where it wasn't just that venues were shut down. The parks were shut down. People didn't know, right? It's just overreaction that was well intended, it seems to me. Seems silly in hindsight, and we'll all laugh about it now, but it was dramatic. Then people started wanting to get outside, and so places like the Shell could do some limited stuff, and GPAC could do some limited, and you could be outside and experience the art and kind of see some people even at a distance. And, it all kind of evolved and ramped back up over time. I'm curious, though, what you see from arts organizations. Are there ways in which they develop things in COVID that they continue to do?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of probably the discipline where I have seen the most change is in dance. I mean, many dance organizations pre-COVID were very structured, and, they had to have a certain type of floor and they had to have certain space requirements. And all of a sudden you had dancers who were, filming solo performances down Madison Avenue. And
right.
that became so engaging for Memphians. And
right.
so I think you're seeing a lot of organizations, dance and otherwise, doing, performances in sort of non-traditional spaces and shorter performances and things that have more audience engagement now that people are back. And it's been really fascinating to see how that's shifted.
What do you you look ahead however many more years? What do you see? What kind of trends do you think continue in the way arts and arts organizations evolve? For
Memphis, we have obviously two game-changing things going on. One downtown with the Memphis Art Museum that is going to totally change the landscape. And then the Metal Museum, of course, in Overton Park. I mean, those are two really anchor projects that are going to be very transformative for the sector overall. But just in general, I think we will see more things like the Overton Park Shell on Wheels. I think organizations are really thinking about how can they get their programming and their artists into community and have more accessible opportunities like that. And it's a shout out to Ned Canty at Opera Memphis, who started that before he had to because of COVID, but just to be out there 100 days of opera, and opera would break out wherever you were, and just to bring the art to the people. Yep. I mean, that was other people, it's not that he was the first to do it, but it was the first big and very particular way. To ask for some funding for that, and the grant panel around the table said, "We think this is the craziest thing we've ever heard. This will never work. But if anybody could maybe make it work, it's you." Yeah. And so that has definitely become the model. Of will, yes, that Ned could get that done. Last question I always try to ask people, and I did probably in COVID, but I can't remember your answer, which was, what was the first concert you went to? I don't know if I said this during COVID, because I recently was talking about this and have remembered that the first concert I went to was actually the Eagles in Mobile, Alabama at the Civic Center, which was recently torn down. And we were talking about that. And anyway, so the Eagles. And roughly how old were you? I don't even remember, but that was probably in the early 90s. Yeah. So it's funny how you forget. Many people forget. It's an interesting thing. And so they'll do the one they first remember, or they'll do the one they first did with their parents. And it's like, which one did you actually pay for? Well, I went to this because my dad won tickets on the radio. Cool dad. I know. Cool dad for the win. He gave us the tickets. If people want to learn more about everything going on with Arts Memphis, they go to artsmemphis.org. That's right. All the go to artsmemphis.org, and there are, all kinds of things, even here at the end of July, early August happening. And so check out our calendar and find something new to engage in the arts. Okay. Elizabeth Rouse, thanks for being here. That is all the time we have this week. If you missed any of the episodes, you can get it at WYXR, The Daily Memphian, or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, coming up soon, Casey Murley from OPC, David Lusk from the Lusk Gallery, GPAC, Bridges, all that coming up in the coming weeks. But for now, thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.